Okay, so today we're hearing from Canto 3, Chapter 27, Text 22. And this verse says, this devotional service has to be performed strongly in perfect knowledge and with the transcendental vision. One must be strongly renounced and must engage in austerity and perform mystic yoga in order to be firmly fixed in self-absorption. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Devotional service in Krishna consciousness cannot be performed blindly due to material emotion or mental concoction. It is specifically mentioned here that one has to perform devotional service in full knowledge by visualizing the absolute truth. We can understand about the absolute truth by evolving transcendental knowledge, and the result of such transcendental knowledge will be manifested by renunciation. That renunciation is not temporary or artificial, but it is very strong. It is said that development of Krishna consciousness is exhibited by proportionate material detachment or vairagya. If one does not separate himself from material enjoyment, it is to be understood that he is not advancing in Krishna consciousness. Renunciation in Krishna consciousness is so strong that it cannot be deviated by any attractive illusion. One has to perform devotional service in full tapasya or austerity. One should fast on 2 Ekadasi days, which fall on the 11th day of the waxing moon, meaning the moon that's becoming gradually bigger and bigger, and the waning moon, where it becomes smaller and smaller. And on the birthdays of Lord Krishna, Lord Rama, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are many such fasting days. Yogena means by controlling the senses and mind. Yoga Indriya Samyamya, Sanyama. Yogena implies that one is seriously absorbed in the self and is able, by development of knowledge, to understand his constitutional position in relationship with the super self, meaning Krishna. In this way, one becomes fixed in devotional service, and his faith cannot be shaken by any material allurement. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this point, very important point being made here, is that one becomes fixed in devotional service, and his faith in Krishna, of course, cannot be shaken by any material allurement. This is why we are in the material world. We have all been, let's say, attracted to some material allurement. So it is possible to see the material world from the spiritual world. And there are different areas of the spiritual world. Some of those areas are like on the edge of the spiritual world. So it's possible to see the material world from that, let's say, from that position of being on the edge of the spiritual world. And usually people fall down by seeing what's going on in the material world, and they get attracted to something, and then they fall down. So it is possible to fall down from the spiritual world, although oftentimes it's said that you can never fall down from the spiritual world, but there is a possibility. So therefore it says, Yoga Indriya Samyama, Yogena implies that one is seriously absorbed in the self and is able, by development of knowledge, to understand his constitutional position in relationship with the super self or Krishna. In this way, one becomes fixed in devotional service, and his faith cannot be shaken by any material allurement. So, this is what it means to be, uh, let's say, liberated from any attraction in the material world. Um, we fall down into sense gratification by being attracted to something in the material world that looks very nice, or it becomes some kind of goal that we want to achieve. And in the process, we forget Krishna and we get completely uh, enamored by this false, illusory attraction. If we develop attraction to Krishna and his beautiful body, beautiful pastimes, and so forth, then we can overcome the attraction to Maya. That's why it says that yogena implies that one is seriously absorbed in the self and is able, by development of knowledge, to understand his constitutional position in relationship with the super self or Krishna. In this way, one becomes fixed in devotional service, and his faith cannot be shaken by any material allurement. Well, to achieve that position, it requires what you would say is constant engagement in devotional service. And that's why Prabhupada writes here, one has to perform devotional service in full tapasya or austerity. One should fast on 2 Ekadasi days, which fall on the 11th day of the waxing moon, meaning the moon when it's becoming bigger, and the waning moon when it's becoming smaller. And it doesn't get big or small, but it's the vision of the moon is increasing or decreasing according to the way that it's moving around the earth. So there are many such fasting days. By controlling the senses and the mind, yoga indriya samyamya, yogena implies that one is seriously absorbed in the self and is able, by development of knowledge, to understand his constitutional position in relationship with the super self, meaning Krishna. In this way, one becomes fixed in devotional service, and his faith cannot be shaken by any material allurement. Well, there are a lot of material allurements in the material world, and it's very easy to become enamored or attracted to these material allurements that are what, temporary. They're not eternal. Like someone can be attracted to smoking cigarettes, and they start smoking, then they get somewhat addicted to it, and then it's hard to stop. Uh, so how did they get well? How did they get attracted to it? Like one time, uh, I was talking with my sister-in-law, who was a chain smoker, and I asked her. I said, "How come you smoke so much?" I said, and when did you start smoking?" And she said, "Well, when I was much younger, I watched a movie with Humphrey Bogart, and he was smoking a cigarette, and it looked so cool that I started smoking." Now, in the 1940s, the cigarette companies would pay big let's say, actors to smoke cigarettes in their movies. And people will go to the movies and they see a person like Humphrey Bogart, he was a big actor, and he'd be smoking a cigarette, and then by seeing that, people would be attracted to smoking cigarettes, and they would start doing it. That's what happened to my sister-in-law. So the companies are very, very tricky people. They pay big actors to smoke cigarettes during their different acts in movies, and also uh, people are paid to do certain things. That famous people are paid to do certain things to attract the general public to be, let's say, uh, interested or fascinated by what they're doing, and they try and imitate it. So my sister-in-law, when she was a young girl, maybe 18 years old, she saw this very big movie star, Humphrey Bogart, smoking cigarettes on the big screen, on the movie screen. And because of that, she started smoking cigarettes. And eventually, because she smoked so many cigarettes, she had to have a special ventilator with her all the time, and it was on wheels. And wherever she'd go, she had to take it with her so she could breathe, because she smoked so much that she ruined her lungs. And there you are. That's where it leads to. The lungs are meant for inhaling not smoke, but clean air. But if you persist on smoking, you keep inhaling smoke into your lungs, and eventually the lungs become, let's say, deteriorated. And if you take a picture of a chain smoker, you'll usually see that it's black. The lungs are black, right? So, and in order to get people to smoke, the movie people, they get paid money to have their major actors smoking on the big screen, right? And they're paid to do that. And then the normal people, they see that and they think they get attracted to it because it gives them a certain persona when they smoke. They look like a gangster or they look really cool or whatever. And then young kids begin smoking. You know, so that's why it's important to be Krishna conscious, so that you can control the senses and the mind uh, by focusing them on Krishna rather than cigarettes or other nonsense things. So uh, one is seriously absorbed in the self and is able, by development of knowledge, to understand his constitutional position in relationship with the super self, or Krishna. In this way, one becomes fixed in devotional service, and his faith cannot be shaken by any material allurement. Well, this is what we're struggling, or uh, we're trying to attain this position where we're no longer attracted by any material allurement. Well, uh, modern publicity is material allurement on steroids. And there's so much publicity, and if you watch television, or even if you go to movies, there's always advertisements that take place. And uh, and what are the advertisements? They want to convince you to buy something or do something. Nowadays, they're not allowed to have cigarette publicity on like television, and they still have it in movies, But and I think it's in television. They don't allow uh, uh, actors to have cigarettes. Can you look at that? Uh,
Maharaj, nowadays in movies, they might not place, it might not be a placement, as in they might not be paid. But if you see because I watch sometimes with the kids or anything cool that the person is doing,
Anything what?
anything cool
Yeah.
or anything smart, or anything important, they'll always have a cigarette or like a glass of.
No, anything dumb.
Yeah, but they'll make it look like for the common man, it
Yeah.
looks like they're doing something important or something smart, and they'll always have
Something attractive.
distracted.
Yeah.
But smart in the common man's perspective, it can be ignorant, but like the way they associate, okay, if I have to do something important, something smart, I need to have a cigarette. Like it's indirectly they're influenced.
Yeah.
Ambition. And they put a smoking is injurious. Like a small disclaimer at the end.
Smoking is injurious. Injurious. Yeah. Beware, smoking can kill you. But still, people. Well, they have another cigarette. Uh, the cigarette pack, not on cigarette itself, but on cigarette pack. It says, smoking can kill you, and still people buy cigarettes. That just proves that ignorance is still very prevalent in the world. Even though you'd think that the more there's advancement of science and so forth in the material world, the people should get smarter and smarter. But actually, they're getting dumber and dumber because of modern publicity. Whenever you go to a movie or you watch television, there's always going to be advertisements, and they're trying to convince you. Yeah.
Says no, it is not allowed for film stars to endorse cigarette smoking on TV in the United States due to federal law that ban paid tobacco product placements in movies and television shows, meaning actors cannot explicitly promote a specific cigarette brand on screen. This includes displaying brand names or logos on the cigarettes they are smoking.
Yeah, but that doesn't preclude them from smoking.
Yeah, because all the script writers, they write the scene, the directors, the way they envision the scene, there is always these.
Yeah, they still have cigarettes in the movies, but you can't advertise a particular brand.
In India, if you have someone smoking or something in a scene, right in the scene, they're forced to again say smoking is injurious to health. And then in case of US, that's not requirement, but then it changes the rating of the movie. It's PG
I know,
13.
but people don't pay attention to ratings.
PG-13 or sometimes R rated.
Yeah, but people don't pay attention to those to those ratings. In fact, they like the movies that have this.
Higher rating.
Yeah. Okay, so here in this verse today, Canto 3, chapter 27, verse 22, it says, we can understand about the absolute truth by evolving transcendental knowledge. And the result of such transcendental knowledge will be manifested by renunciation. That renunciation is not temporary or artificial, but is very strong. It is said that development of Krishna consciousness is exhibited by proportionate material detachment or vairagya. If one does not separate himself from material enjoyment, it is to be understood that he is not advancing in Krishna consciousness.
Mm.
Renunciation in Krishna consciousness is so strong that it cannot be deviated by any attractive illusion. One has to perform devotional service in full tapasya or austerity. One should fast on 2 Ekadasi days, which fall on the 11th day of the waxing moon when it's increasing, and on the waning moon when it's decreasing, and on the birthdays of Lord Krishna, Lord Rama, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are many such fasting days. And by controlling the senses, yogena means by controlling the senses and the mind. Yoga indriya samyamya. Yogena implies that one is seriously absorbed in the self and is able, by development of knowledge, to understand his constitutional position in relationship with the super self, meaning Krishna. In this way, one becomes fixed in devotional service, and his faith cannot be shaken by any material allurement. Well, that's why we're reading the Prabhupada's purports and the verses. We want to develop this very strong attachment to Krishna consciousness, not a very strong attachment to sense gratification, and this that requires daily uh, remembrance of what is the real goal of life. Uh, Most people have, uh, well, for most people, when somebody dies in the family, they get a little bit sober about, oh my God, that could happen to me also. Maybe I have to change what I'm doing. But usually, as soon as the funeral is over, they forget all this, let's say, serious thinking about, what is the purpose of life, and they go back again doing whatever they're doing, eating meat or gambling or whatever. So oftentimes, it's called in the renunciation in the crematorium. You go to see a person who just died, and you're seeing the ceremonies, and then you go to the crematorium and you see the body of somebody that you love put into the oven. And then they close the oven and turn on the heat, and that's it. You're never going to see the person again. Right? So that's like a sobering uh, experience when you actually see the person that you love is put into the oven and then completely burned to ashes. And then later on, you can go and pick up the ashes uh, at the funeral home. They give you an urn. You can take it to your home, and keep it on a shelf or something. This is the ashes for so and so that I love very much. And if you don't have much money, then you can, well, you still have to pay money for the cremation, but then they give you the urn, and uh, oftentimes you can either keep the urn with the ashes of the deceased, or you can have it kept in a in a what do you call that? In a place where you have to pay for it, and every once in a while you can go and see it. So I mean, it's a business. It's a business type of situation where uh, you have the ashes that are being kept. You can keep the ashes in your house, or you can have it in a cemetery, and every once in a while you visit the cemetery and you see the urn in which all the ashes are of the person that you like. That's a picture on the urn also of the person. You ever see that? No? Yeah.
I, I didn't see that, but I remember now when I first came to the US,
Yeah.
when I was working, my first manager, he told me, at that time I didn't have any of this knowledge. His mom died,
Yeah.
and came back from the funeral, and he said his mom's wish was to take all her ashes
Yeah.
and for him to go on a hot air balloon and
Go do what?
on a take her ashes,
Yeah.
get on a hot air balloon,
Oh, a hot air balloon. Yeah, go way up high.
go up, the ashes
Yeah. So,
down space.
so everyone gets contaminated.
And at that time I thought, oh, she's so thoughtful. Because I didn't know any of this. I was like, at least she was planning her death, like my manager. I thought, okay, that lady is so thoughtful. I thought, okay, people in America are so thoughtful. They even plan their death.
Yeah.
I had no understanding of this. Now I understand that is how myopically you might be thinking about your body.
It just shows how stupid
Yeah,
people
and
are.
he did that.
Yeah.
They planned for the hot air balloon and threw the ashes in her home city or something, someplace she asked for that,
Right.
and they did that.
How do you call? It costs money too.
A lot of money.
Yeah. Well, there are different ways. I mean, it's a whole, let's say, uh, it's a whole decision that people make. They do, people decide how they want their death to be dealt with. You know, some people, want to be cremated. Some people want to be, buried and so forth. So it's a whole science what they do with the dead body. If you go to New York State and near, you know, uh, New York City, they have these very, very expensive, what do you call this, places where they keep dead bodies, right? And you can pay, hundreds and thousands of dollars to be in a cemetery of high-end people. It costs a lot of money, right? And then sometimes they buy these mausoleums, meaning they build a house in the cemetery, in a concrete house, nicely decorated and everything. And they have, like 10 people in that family that are, you know, uh, put into that house. And it costs a lot of money. It can cost millions of dollars, not all the time. There's all different levels of opulence. Well, opulence in the crematorium, I mean, opulence in the death, and the way they deal with the dead body. So they have these like real houses in the cemetery, in the very, very elaborate buildings. And then you open the door, you can go in and you see, the names of all the people that are that are kept in that particular very opulent type of house. Uh, so, uh, see, now in India, they burn the body and they take the ashes and put it in the Ganges, right? So that's a smarter thing to do because you don't have to, purchase property in a cemetery. It costs a lot of money, especially in New York State. Yeah, yeah, yeah. These cemeteries where people have paid millions of dollars to keep their family, and then you have these family vaults or these family buildings where the great grandfathers did it there, the grandmothers there, and so forth, and it costs a lot of money, a lot of money. So, therefore, having the cremation, that's expensive also. They can pay, up to $10,000 for a cremation. Depends on, where you live. But it's a big racket, basically, you know. But because it's sentimentality of the people, they want to, uh, make a big thing about the body. So the bodily identification is what keeps people in Maya. So they're identified with a new body, like a baby, or they're identified with a dead body. And it's always based on bodily identification rather than the soul. Okay, so uh, our takeaway today from this verse, Canto 3, chapter 27, verse 22, it says, one should fast. One has to perform devotional service in full tapasya, meaning austerity. One should fast on the 2 Ekadasi days, which fall on the 11th day of the waxing moon, when the moon is getting bigger and bigger, and waning moon, when it's getting smaller and smaller, and on the birthdays of Lord Krishna, Lord Rama, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are many such fasting days. Yogena means by controlling the senses and mind. Yoga Indriya Samyama. Yogena implies that one is seriously absorbed in the self and is able, by development of knowledge, to understand his constitutional position in relationship with the super self of Krishna. In this way, one becomes fixed in devotion service, and his faith cannot be shaken by any material allurement. So, this development of knowledge to understand his constitutional position in relationship with the super self, this is what is taught in Krishna consciousness. It is not taught in schools. And in schools, one is taught that I am this body, or it is implied just by the way people are acting and talking. They're all always, let's say, overwhelmed by bodily identification. And they spend a lot of money for the body by buying, expensive clothing, expensive jewelry, and expensive cars, and expensive houses, expensive this and expensive that, right? All on the idea of bodily identification. So, there's one time there was I went to this sauna uh, place, the sweat, and there was another man in the sauna, and I'm sitting not so far away from him. And I didn't even talk to him. He didn't talk to me. And then he went out, and then I also went out, and he took a shower. I also took a shower. And then he went to, put on his clothes. I also went to put on my clothes. And then he went to get his, you know, his uh, money and his valuables, like the uh, you know anyway, anything of value that you have, they protect it at this at the where you pay money to come in. Yeah,
They have lockers.
lockers. Yeah. So I was watching this man. I mean, we were both in the sauna together, and you can't really tell who a person is. But when he was getting dressed, and I noticed that he had really expensive clothing. And then he went to the front desk where he got his valuable things like rings and things like that he had taken off and left it there for safekeeping. And then I noticed, he had very, very expensive clothing, and then he got this expensive jewelry, right? Rings and necklaces and things like that. And then he goes out, and there is a big limousine with a chauffeur. And he gets into the limousine and then drives away. And then I suddenly realized, oh my God, this guy was a very rich man. And I was sitting close to him in the steam room. So in the steam room, you can't really tell, what the person is. He might be very rich, he might be very poor, right? But as soon as I went out and I saw, the clothes he had, and then the fact that he gets into a chauffeur-driven limousine, then I understood. Oh my God, this guy was very rich. So you can't really tell who a person is sometimes. Uh, Sometimes there are very wealthy people who live very simply. Like Warren Buffett. He lives simply, although he's one of the richest people in the world. He doesn't have expensive cars. He still drives around the car he had for the last 50 years, right? He doesn't buy a new car, and he lives, a simple life. But yet he's an extremely rich guy. So different people, have different ways of living. Some people may be very, very rich, but they live very simply. And some people may be maybe not so rich, but they show off their whatever riches they have, right? So in this way, the uh, artificial attempt to show yourself to be something that you're not is very prominent in the Western world, where people they might live in a somewhat poor, uh, you know, uh, neighborhood, but they have nice cars.
Yes.
Yeah. That means that, even though they might not be very rich, but they spent a lot of money to buy a wealthy car or a nice car, and they drive around with it. And it gives them a sense of being someone special, right? So, what is special about a person is their dedication to Krishna consciousness. That is really something special. But trying to have a identification of yourself through expensive gadgets, that's not really being special. That's just showing off, right? But being special is when you're actually very dedicated to Krishna, and also because of that dedication to Krishna, you're also very charitable and merciful to others. So in that way, uh, people can might be very attracted to very rich people that show off their wealth and with cars and big houses and so forth. But on the other hand, when you see a genuine devotee who is engaged in real welfare work. One time there was this devotee, Prabhupada asked him to give a lecture. So Prabhupada was listening to the lecture, and the devotee said, yes, and we're not interested in doing any welfare work. And Prabhupada stopped him, said, no, Krishna consciousness is the best welfare work. So, why? Because if someone becomes Krishna conscious, it could solve all their problems in life and get them get themselves, let's say, uh, let's say, educated so that they can be liberated at the moment of death. So Krishna consciousness is the most important thing that you can cultivate in life. It's the greatest welfare work to help people become Krishna conscious. The Prabhupada stopped the devotee and said, no. The devotee said, and we're not interested in doing any welfare work. The Prabhupada said, no. Krishna consciousness is the best welfare work. Right? It's not the mundane welfare work where you just, help people have a little bit better sense gratification. The real welfare work is to help people to become Krishna conscious. Okay, so our takeaway today, renunciation in Krishna consciousness is so strong that it cannot be deviated by any attractive illusion. One has to perform devotional service in full tapasya or austerity. One should fast on the 2 Ekadasi days, which fall on the 11th day of the waxing moon, when it's getting bigger, and the waning moon, on the birthdays of Lord Krishna, Lord Rama, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are many such fasting days. Yogena means by controlling the senses and mind. Yoga Indriya Samyama. Yogena implies that one is seriously absorbed in the self and is able, by development of knowledge, to understand his constitutional position in relationship with the super self or Krishna. In this way, one becomes fixed in devotional service, and his faith cannot be shaken by any material allurement. So sometimes, when you're working, especially, there's Christmas and New Year's, your coworkers say, well, what are you going to do on New Year's Eve? Say, well, I'm going to go to bed early and wake up early. They said, what, are you crazy? No, you come to the party. We're going to have the New Year's Eve party. We're going to have champagne and this and that, right? So you have to make a decision in life about what is really important. And what is really important is Krishna consciousness. It's not champagne and parties and other types of sense gratification. It's rather, on New Year's Eve, I'm going to go to the temple and be there and chant Hare Krishna and have some nice prasadam, right? I'm not going to go out, see the fireworks and everybody, half drunk and screaming and so forth, and having firecrackers and whatever. You can do that, even in Seattle, you can do that. You go see all the fireworks and everyone's is screaming and chanting something, dancing, whatever. Or you can you come to the temple and chant Hare Krishna and have nice prasadam and celebrate the New Year. Yeah, but our dancing is different than their dancing. Yeah, of course. Yeah. We have nice prasadam, and we have nice dancing and nice singing, and nice, beautiful deities. Yeah, that's a great, best way to celebrate the New Year or Christmas. Okay, so any questions about this verse? Here, Prabhupada's statement, this is what we should take away today. If one does not separate himself from material enjoyment, it is to be understood that he is not advancing in Krishna consciousness. Renunciation in Krishna consciousness is so strong that it cannot be deviated by any attractive illusion. one has to perform devotional service in full tapasya or austerity. One should fast on 2 Ekadasi days, which fall on the 11th day, and so forth. So, those are very profound statements that Prabhupada is making. But actually, the vairagya, or detachment from material, attraction, is actually fun in Krishna consciousness. It's not like self-immolation, like you burn your finger or something for to be tapasvi. No, our tapasya is actually joyful. Chanting, dancing, feasting, hearing nice statements from the Shastra, and doing good to others, going on a Sankirtan and chanting and dancing and helping distributing books, giving prasadam, and so forth. So our tapasya is actually happy, right? And that other tapasya where someone is in a dark cave and it's cold and he's meditating. That's not our tapasya, right? So when you say tapasya in Krishna consciousness, it's all happiness. And when you say tapasya for the, let's say, the basically fake meditators, it's all about meditating on nothingness or meditating on their nose. And how long can they meditate on the tip of their nose? You tell me. It's not very long, right? And they think that they're making, advancement in yoga, but that's not yoga. Meditating on the tip of your nose or twisting your body like a pretzel. That's not yoga. Yoga is chanting Hare Krishna, right? And dancing and taking prasadam. That is real yoga. This taking of prasadam is very important in Krishna consciousness. The Prabhupada was very adamant. He always was asking the devotees, was the prasadam good? And and he always made sure that the devotees would eat prasadam to their full satisfaction. Why? Because the Prabhupada said once, it's the only sense gratification devotees have. So therefore, it should be very nice. Okay. So controlling the mind and the senses, that is called tapasya. And when you can control the mind and the senses, you have become a real yogi. It's not about doing this exercise or this way of twisting your body. It's being able to control your mind and senses by keeping them always engaged in Krishna conscious activity. That's real tapasya. So if we follow the regulative principles every day in our life, we're a real yogi and we're performing real tapasya. But our tapasya is full of happiness. And the Mayavadi's tapasya is basically artificially controlling their senses and mind by doing things that are not fun, like meditating in silence. It's not actually fun, but going out on Sankirtan and chanting and dancing, that is fun, you see. So our tapasya is all fun. And the Mayavadi's tapasya is actually not fun. It's denying the senses. Whereas we don't deny the senses, we engage the senses in Krishna consciousness. That's the major difference between the Mayavadis and the devotees. And we have nice prasadam, whereas the Mayavadis do a very, sometimes they have very, let's say, limited type of food, right? But devotees have feast days, they have a lot of feast days, and they have nice prasadam. I remember one time I was looking at this video of some devotees in Lithuania, right? And they they were having it was like a Sunday feast festival. It was like they were all happy, and they were very involved in the eating prasadam, and it just looked like they were very very satisfied being Krishna conscious. You know, so I was looking at that. And I said, "Wow, these people are in Lithuania, but yet they've learned to be Krishna conscious by the mercy of Prabhupada." And they're all happy. You know, so we should be happy, hopefully, in Krishna consciousness, because happiness is infectious. It's the worst. It's the best infection that you can get. Haribol. Any questions about this report? Yes.
Krishna Maharaj, why should we do fasting, Maharaj? The Prabhupada here says one should fast on the two Ekadashi days, which fall on the 11th day of the waxing in the waning moon, and also on the birthdays.
Well, it's part of devotional service. Where on certain days we do fasting, which means that it's controlling our senses. Okay? If you can't fast, some devotees say, "Oh, I can't fast. I get a headache, and I can't, fast on a Ekadasi." But if you can do these things, then it builds your determination to control the senses and and you sublimate your desire to eat by increasing your chanting and doing service. So there is even more, let's say, pleasure in serving prasadam on a festival day than eating prasadam.
Yes.
When you can actually serve the devotees, and give them nice prasadam. Of course, you'll have prasadam also, but sometimes you derive more pleasure by serving the devotees on these festival days, giving them nice prasadam, or cooking very nice prasadam, giving it to the devotees. Yeah, so there's pleasure in respecting prasadam, and there's pleasure in distributing prasadam. Sometimes the pleasure of distributing prasadam is more pleasurable than actually sitting down and eating prasadam, because you see how devotees are happy by being served nicely. Okay. Any questions? Yes.
So, as Prabhupada mentioned, if one does not separate himself from material enjoyment, it is to be understood that he is not advanced in Krishna consciousness. If you said that's the takeaway. So, but when we are
Oh, wait a minute. It says material enjoyment.
right,
It doesn't say spiritual enjoyment.
no,
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
but isn't it natural that when we are eating prasadam, chanting, doing the service,
Yeah.
it is naturally that the material enjoyment
Is there?
if we kind of let go of that, is that natural or you're making an effort to do that? Or both?
No, it's naturally enjoyment, but it's spiritual enjoyment,
Right.
because you're eating prasadam, and you're not like gluttonous, trying to overeat. You respect prasadam. Respecting prasadam means you're not talking a lot and joking and things like that. You're serious. When Prabhupada would eat prasadam, he was very serious. He'd be meditating, on the sacred prasadam. So, yeah, prasadam should be taken, with reverence. It should be a reverent experience when you take prasadam and meditate on the fact that you're eating the mercy of Krishna. There shouldn't be, like a New Year's Eve party, everyone's, drinking liquor and talking loudly. And no, when people take prasadam, devotees take prasadam, it's a holy experience. It's reverent, should be reverent experience of taking prasadam. When Prabhupada would eat, he was very serious about meditating on taking the food with reverence, the prasadam with reverence. Actually, the uh, devotees in the time of Lord Chaitanya, every time they would take a morsel of food, they would chant Hare Krishna. So in the prasadam room where they were taking prasadam, there'd be everybody would be like chanting. They would choose something and then say Hare Krishna, and everybody has different, uh, sequences of eating. So there was the holy name was being chanted over and over again, in the prasadam room. Yeah.
We should do it.
Huh?
We should do that.
We should do that also. Yeah, we can. Yeah. Every time you take a morsel of food and you swallow it, you say Hare Krishna, out loud.
And I see devotees discussing about work.
Oh my
Microsoft,
God.
Amazon while they eat sadhana.
Oh my God. That's terrible.
The videos of Prabhupada, how he honors. Actually, sometimes he sits right opposite to the wall
Yeah.
so that he doesn't get distracted.
Distracted. Yeah. Well, we have to
See,
follow the spiritual master's example.
this is the corner.
What's that?
This is Prabhupada honoring Prasadam.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he's sitting
Facing
in
the
front,
wall.
facing the wall.
Yeah.
And he's not looking at anybody.
And I don't hear him
Brahmachari
talking.
is helping from behind.
He's not
from the
talking.
side. He's not talking to anybody.
He's meditating on prasadam. It's reverent eating. He's doing it as a spiritual, let's say, experience. That's why Prabhupada, he said there was never a time that I was not Krishna conscious my whole life. Hari Bol. He did say that when he went to college, it lessened his, let's say, fervor for spiritual consciousness, and because he was associated with these karmis. But after that, he became very, dedicated to being Krishna conscious. It doesn't mean he broke any regulative principles, but just the experience, going to a college and doing, studies and things like that, and associating with mundane people, it sort of lessens your fervor for Krishna consciousness. But he said, but afterwards he became, completely free of that, academic uh, consciousness, and he was just Krishna conscious completely. So yeah, when you put yourself in the association of a lot of non-devotees, it does influence the way you practice Krishna consciousness. The strict and very deep spiritual dedication can be loosened, and just by association with non-devotees. Everything depends on who we associate with. Tell me who your friends are, I can tell you who you are. So if you always associate with devotees, that means you're a devotee. If you avoid the association of devotees, always associate with materialistic people, then that means that you're attracted by that wealth or the joking or whatever it is that your friends are doing that are actually not Krishna conscious. So everything depends on who you associate with in life. So the way a devotee, Lord Chaitanya said, the way of recognizing a devotee is by seeing who that person associates. And if you're associating always with good devotees, not the loose devotees, but the good devotees, that means you're a serious devotee. And we should always try and associate with people that are more advanced than we are in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so it says one should fast on the 2 Ekadasi days, which fall on the 11th day of the waxing moon and waning moon, and on the birthdays of Lord Krishna, Lord Rama, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are many such fasting days, about 40 of 40 of, maybe a little bit more than 40. So that means that you can control your mind and senses when you fast. But we don't fast for a political purpose. There are people, that they might be in jail and they're protesting against their being put in jail, so they go on a fast, right? That's not the spiritual fasting. But spiritual fasting is on fasting days, like Janmashtami and so forth, and it's not for a political purpose. It's for controlling your mind and senses and focusing more on God or Krishna than on food. Right? So by controlling the senses, we can increase the chanting. So on these very holy fasting days, we increase the chanting and meditating on Krishna because we're not so interested in eating, right? And that's good. It's good for your health also. It's very good for your health having fast days or um, engaging in fasting. But we don't have, we don't go like on a 40-day fast, something like that. Some people do that. Uh, that's actually hurting your body rather than helping your body. Yes.
Maharaj, when you're saying fasting, is it fasting from everything, not eating anything the whole day?
There's different levels of fast.
What do you recommend?
What do I recommend? Well, you have a half day fast, right? And then there are full day fasting, meaning like 40, not 48 hours, but
36.
36 hours. Anyway, if you just follow, what the Prabhupada recommended, that's good enough. You don't have to go on a 40-day fast or something like that. Yeah. That's actually detrimental, not actually beneficial. But being moderate in eating and sleeping is very good because you control your sleeping, you control your eating to what is, let's say, minimal, and then you increase your chanting and your dancing. Right? Um, so therefore, 6 hours or 7 hours of sleep, that's enough. You don't have to sleep, 12 or 15 hours a day. People buy these real special beds. They're very expensive. And you have these dials and you fix the hardness or softness of the bed. And then a husband and wife, they sleep in the same bed, but the wife's side can be adjusted to a certain type of hardness or softness, and the husband, he can adjust his side of the bed. That is all nonsense. It's complete nonsense. Yeah. But they're expensive beds, very expensive. People spend a lot of money on sleeping. Right? We try and minimize sleeping so we can spend more time on chanting and dancing and having Krishna consciousness. You see how Krishna consciousness is diametrically different. Look that word up. Diametrically different than material life. Spiritual life is diametrically different than material life.
I just asked for some of the what are the fasting days,
Yes.
just for the benefit of all
You
of us.
asked ChatGPT?
The elephant in the room. Maharaj one. Yeah. So this is Veda-based strategy. So ISKCON devotees observe several fasting days throughout the year as part of their spiritual practices. This fast aligns with the specific Vaishnava festivals, Ekadasi days, and other significant events in the Vedic calendar. Below is a summary. So number one, Ekadasi fast. Frequency, twice a month on the 11th day of the waxing and waning moon. Duration, 24 hours, from sunrise to the next day's sunrise. Foods allowed, no grains or legumes. Typically, devotees eat fruits, nuts, dairy, and vegetables prepared without grains. Then the next is appearance and disappearance days of great Vaishnavas. Fasting is observed until noon on the appearance days, that is, Janmashtami for Lord Krishna or Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. On the disappearance days, fasting is also observed until noon to honor the Acharyas. Festival fact: Janmashtami, complete fasting until midnight in time, the time of Lord Krishna's appearance. Gaura Purnima, Lord Chaitanya's appearance, complete fasting until moonrise. Narasimha Chaturdashi, fast until dusk to honor Lord Narasimha's appearance. And then Ram Navami, fast until noon. Radha Yatra, optional fasting in preparation for the festival. Then we have Annakuta and Govardhan Puja, fasting may occur until Govardhan worship in the afternoon, depending on the local temple guidance. Then Chaturmasya, during the 4 months of Chaturmasya, devotees may voluntarily give up certain foods, for example, green leafy vegetables, yogurt, or certain spices as form of austerity. General guidelines on fasting: water only fasting, observed for those who are able, especially on Janmashtami. Partial fasting allows fruits, non-grains, milk. And then fasting is not merely dietary, but accompanied by increased chanting, prayer, and hearing of the scriptures. So that's the guidance.
Haribol. Thank you. Mhm. Yes.
Diametrically different means completely or utterly opposite.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Say that. Say the word again.
Diametrically different,
Yes.
completely or utterly opposite.
You're right.
It means like it can imply to like two things that are like far apart or far
Different.
apart as possible in terms of
In terms of
meaning.
meaning. Yes. Yeah. Diametrically different. Yeah. Okay. We learned a new word. Any questions, comments?
There's no question on that.
Yeah.
I taught people yoga.
This is
The
the
asana.
comment.
Yeah. They both are retired doctors.
Okay.
And
They're your
my students.
yeah.
So I taught them one-on-one sessions because they're relatively old.
Yeah.
And they cannot fit into the group classes. As you were mentioning about the bed, right?
About?
The bed.
Bed.
The bed.
Oh, the bed. Yeah.
They had the customized
Oh, yeah.
bed. The reason we got to know, or I got to know, is one day she was mentioning about the neck pain and the shoulder pain. Then we were talking about the pillows and things like that. So she was telling me the whole.
She got excited.
I got to know what type of bed it is and how many different levels it can go up or down. And then they both have two different beds.
Yes.
Because
Sometimes it's the same bed, but you can adjust on one side.
sophisticated.
Yeah.
And they have only one daughter, and she is following the Hindu philosophy, and they are Christian.
Okay.
So she lives in California, and she goes to temples, not into ISKCON, but the different philosophy.
It's called Piscon.
So it just reminded of them when you.
Yeah.
So their whole house is so sophisticated, like everything is
Perfect.
Customized.
2%.
it's their own, every single thing was.
You don't want slightest of discomfort there. You want to-
Right. And I was like, I am walking in some different world.
Yeah.
So
You went to the home Mataji?
I had, yeah, I
For the
a
classes.
couple of times.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes when you give the example, if you don't see it, it's hard to relate. Like,
Yes.
but when someone else had that, uh,
Well, I mean, they're overdoing it. You know,
that's what it is,
self
yeah.
comfort. You know, they're going to extremes. Everything has to be perfect. So if a person goes to the spiritual world and they see something that's not perfect, they get confused. The like for example, the gopis sometimes they put their dresses on backwards. They're so enamored by Krishna and they hear Krishna is somewhere and they quickly put on their dresses, but they put them on backwards, right? Because someone was saying, well, you know, these people are crazy or they're not very serious. No, they're overwhelmed with love for Krishna. That's why they make these mistakes. But they're not really mistakes. They're ecstatic states of love for the Lord. But you know, how would you know that? Like, for example, sometimes you know, a devotee will be walking down the street and chanting Hare Krishna very loudly. People think, "Oh, there's something wrong with that guy." Yeah, it's crazy because there are other people that are actually crazy and walking down the street talking to themselves, right? But sometimes devotees will be chanting out loud as they're walking, and you know they can't differentiate between the two: the crazy guy that's talking to himself, or the devotee who's chanting out loud. So there is real gold and there's fake gold, right? So you have to be an expert to be able to see the difference between the two. In the same way, the devotee going down the street and chanting out loud, as opposed to the crazy guy going down the street and talking loudly, they're not the same thing. So, excuse me. So you have to be able to recognize the culture of a person. Right? And you can usually do that by seeing what they eat, what they have on their plate. So some person have a nice tie and nice suit and talk nicely and have a good position in life. But when they sit down to eat, there's a piece of meat on their plate. And now you know it's a really low class person. Although everything is first class in their life, except what they eat. So they're eating meat. So therefore they're actually a low class person. Although everything else is first class. So you can see how you can see what a person is like by seeing what they eat. So if they have a big piece of meat, a sirloin steak. You know, they have these steak houses, right? It's just, they The whole thing is sirloin steak. And it's strange. They make a lot of money. A lot of people go to these steakhouses where you have to pay, like 100, 200, 300, $400 to eat a dead body. It's amazing. It's just amazing that they'll do that. And they'll, drink, liquor or wine, and all these things are considered, very high class, but actually it's a very low class, you know, Haribol. But we wouldn't know that. It's only because of Prabhupada that we learned that. Okay, no more questions, no more answers. Yes, Abhi.
My school, two friends at school, they keep chatting at lunch about, oh no, this kind of meat is very good, this kind of meat is very good.
Really?
And I have to like, I'm just too annoyed and I have to like scoot away and close my ears if it's necessary.
Yeah.
Because every day at least there's missing meat. And then they serve like this vegetarian option of meat.
But it can't be vegetarian because they cook it in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
They might be cooking in the same pot that has been used for meat also. So it's not really vegetarian. Yeah, you use the same oven or you use the same pots, even though they wash the pots, but it's still, meat has touched it. Yeah, you have to be careful in life. Best thing is to take your lunch, let your mother make lunch for you and take it to the school, eat there. Don't eat the lunch in the school. Lunch in the school is always going to be contaminated. It's always going to be. They can say, "Oh no, this is vegetarian," but they cooked it in a pot in which they cooked meat also. So
Even if even if they used to give they I used to take the school lunch.
Yeah.
But the vegetarian option, and then now I don't, but because I'm getting home lunch. But now they say last time they used to before they used to like give big good enough quantity for the kids to eat. Now they're giving like milk, the main thing, and that's it basically.
To reduce the portions.
Yeah, just like a fruit. A fruit. A lot of people just take potato with some cheese and milk. That's it. Just four that or three.
well, they're trying to starve you so you eat the meat and all the other things. Yeah, you look at what the other guy's eating. It looks like he's having a feast. And you have your little piece of cheese or something. Those are all subtle ways of conditioning people, right? Whereas, you come to the temple, you get like a real feast, right? The food just keeps coming and coming, right? But if they serve you like microscopic, food, you can hardly even see it. So they're trying to convince you that you should just eat the regular menu and not ask for anything special. That's a subtle way.
It seems like the journey of Krishna consciousness. Most people we start with no regulations to regulated life.
Yeah.
Eventually, the highest state is again unregulated, like the gopis, because they're so absorbed in the love of Krishna, they might make mistakes and they might not follow all the rules. But we cannot use that to justify the other extreme.
Well, it's testing you. And you say, well, the gopis, they also do this or do that. So that means I can do that also. No, you should never try and imitate like, for example, if someone says that uh, the great devotees, they can do things that should never be attempted to be done by regular devotees, right? So, for example, Lord Shiva, he swallows poison, right? He holds it in his neck. Neck is all blue. Should we try and emulate Lord Shiva? No way. Or as they say, no way, Jose. You'll die if you try and do that, right? So we should never try and emulate the, let's say, transcendental activities of pure devotees. We should follow their instruction, but not try and do exactly the same things that they do. Right? Like, for example, Srila Prabhupada, he never gave an example of extreme tapasya. He would take prasadam, just like the devotees, and he would eat reverently, like, talking, quiet, and he would relish the prasadam, right? It was reverent eating. There's no talking or anything like that. And so there's this one sannyasi, when he eats, he never talks. But when he wants more prasadam, he goes like this, starts moving his arms like that. That means, oh, he wants some more prasadam. He doesn't say, Prabhuji, can you please give me some more prasadam? No, because he has a vow of silence when he eats, but he still has to communicate, right? They have this type of hand movement, to indicate, give me more prasadam. So that's like, an extreme, and it's basically, foolish in many ways. So we shouldn't, take things to an extreme. It should be, let's say moderation. Yeah. Otherwise, people think we're crazy, right? Fanatical or crazy. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. All gracious Srila Prabhupada. And happy Christmas. Hari Bol. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Say Merry Hare Krishna. Not Merry Krishna. Merry Hare.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, will you be doing Kirtan today, Maharaj, in the temple?
Yeah, sure. Sure. All day.